Okay, so we are back. Here is the Maryland form. It has a fancy title, which is called Practice-Oriented Doctoral Programs, Pre-Internship or Pre-Doctoral Post-Internship Supervision, Academic Training Program Director form. It's one of the longest titles I've ever seen. How do we understand what's going on here? Okay, it's a form filled out by your training or program director, in our case the training director, that documents your pre-internship supervised experience, okay? And so this is where we document the practicum experiences for Maryland. So page 1 is just your name, the name of your director of clinical training and title. Then we have pages for each of your experiences, where you have the name and address, supervisor's name and title, supervisor's address, etc. It is a pre-internship experience. Then we have Maryland, in its infinite wisdom, decided to divide hours differently than Virginia into Group A, Group B, and Group C. Small letter A, small letter B, and small letter C under each of those. So I'm not going to go through all of those right now, but I will give you a guide sheet, and this will be sent in the emails to you all, about how to fill out the numbers in these spaces. So rather than going through this form, I'm going to skip to my quickie guide to do that. Here we go. Okay. So, the ASPP and APIC hours categories do not correspond to groups A, B, and C on the Maryland reference cover sheet. Therefore, your hours from the ASPP form, your time to track form, will need to be entered into the appropriate groups. Where the Maryland licensure form does not explicitly mention a category, like of support hours, we consider that to be other and included under Group C. So now I've made a table to guide you. Intake interviews and structured interviews, this is a time to track category, we remember, go in Group B. All other intervention hours go in Group A. All other assessment hours also go into Group A. Assessment report writing goes into Group B. Psychological assessment, scoring, and interpretation goes into Group B. And all other support hours go into Group C. So I've tried to simplify it as much as possible, but still conforming to the classifications that Maryland wants. Because Maryland thinks that if they look at their completed form, they know the quantity and quality of your practicum experience. They're very wise. So, the supervision, individual supervision, divide the total among Group A and Group B. Individual supervision by other than a licensed psychologist include in Group A small letter b or Group B small letter b. Group supervision you will include in Group C. And that will be A if by a psychologist, B if by someone else leading that supervision group. So you will get this guide sheet, and this will guide you as to how to allocate the numbers from your summary forms, your time to track, into the Maryland form. And going back to the Maryland form, it is different from the Virginia form in another important respect, and that is that each practicum experience is on a separate page. For Virginia, I have asked you via the Excel spreadsheet to combine all of your practica into one set of total numbers that will be entered on that one form. Maryland's form is separate pages for each practicum. They have a summary page later on in the form. So this is identical to the next page, to the next page. So you can fill in all your separate practicum experiences on these separate pages. And then you get to page 8, and it asks you to summarize service-related activities, supervision, and total hours for each of those practicum experiences that you had on the previous pages. And this page will generate some totals for itself. That's the part you will do on that form. So I've said that. Page 8, in most cases, all of your practicum hours will be entered in section A because your work was supervised by a licensed psychologist. Supervised experience number 1 will have numbers from page 2 up above in the form. Supervised experience number 2 will pull your numbers from page 3, etc. Add the numbers, enter them into the boxes, and the remaining boxes will populate automatically. So they have some of that feature in the form. All right. So, to summarize, I'm going to, where's that last sheet? My final words of advice. So we've gone through the Maryland form, we've gone through the Virginia form. Any questions about the Maryland form? No. Okay. So that guide sheet will guide you through the thicket of this. So some final parting words of advice. Get postdoctoral supervision and document it. There are some graduates who see what we've been talking about, saying, oh, the state licensing board does not require that I get postdoctoral supervision and document it because I'm already qualified to apply for licensure. So why do I need supervision now? Well, there are a couple of important reasons for that, and I will just note them here. It's going to make you a better professional. Do you know it all? No. Do I know it all? No. Am I still in supervision? Yes. If you ask around among the other faculty, they're in either regular or irregular supervision and consultation on their clinical work. We never know it all. There are continually, throughout our career, new cases, new situations, new clinical challenges coming our way. We really need, in order to be solid professionals, a network for consultation, for supervision. Most of you have heard me say at some point along the way, Practicum Seminar is a model for the kind of professional consultation, peer consultation, that you should build into your professional life going forward. So when you're a new postdoctoral person, I advise you to be in a setting where you can obtain, or obtain separately on the outside for yourself, supervision from a more experienced colleague. It's going to make you a better professional. The other important reason is this will help you get licensed in states that continue to require supervised postdoctoral practice. If you want to apply for licensure in DC, for example, in Pennsylvania, to take another state, in New York State, in New Jersey. These are some nearby jurisdictions where you need postdoctoral supervision. The fact that you got a license in Maryland or got a license in Virginia does not guarantee that you will be license eligible in those jurisdictions. It's much better to have had documented supervised experience with a licensed psychologist for some period following the doctorate, and document that supervision, the hours that you worked, and the supervision sessions that you had, and over what time period, so that if those states request that kind of information, you can provide it to get yourself licensed. I myself had been licensed in New York, and then in New Jersey, moved to the DC area, got a DC license, got a Maryland license, etc. I've done practice in all of those jurisdictions, and chances are, in the course of your career, you will also have some amount of mobility that you're trying to do. Not to mention the circumstance, and it's growing, where people are providing telehealth services across state lines, providing services to clients who are in a different jurisdiction from ours. And what are the laws and rules applying to that? And do I need licensure in that other jurisdiction? These are big, important questions for the profession, And the profession so far is generally saying, well, yes, you should be licensed in that jurisdiction where your client is residing and you are providing services to them. So you're going to need to research that if you are going into that kind of practice, which more and more professionals are trying to do. So this is another reason, again, to get postdoctoral supervision. Then, point number 2, before you take the EPPP, make sure to study 100 hours minimum. So I will say in that regard that the pass rate for students coming out of this program really depends on people's studying. It depends on people's studying. We have heard, unfortunately, of some graduates who decide on a lark, let me take the EPPP and see how I do before I study. Chances are, if they didn't put in 100 hours of studying, they don't do well. They end up with a low score, and then actually our program looks bad because national statistics are gathered and published about the pass rate of graduates of a program. We want our program to look good, we want you to look good, we want your career to progress, and so we actually provide those study materials, again, upon graduation. Contact Dr. Lynch and Salmazaki, and they will arrange for you to get the EPPP study materials. Use those for 100 hours minimum. Monitor your scores in the practice tests. You will know when you're ready, and then take the exam and pass it the first time. That's really important. Finally, stay in touch with us. We want to know when you get licensed, and we want to follow your career successes. And Dr. Lynch actually has done 2 things. He has revived our LinkedIn group for graduates that you should all join. And he's also instituted some CE events, free CE events for graduates, some of which are on campus in person, you come to campus, and some of which have actually had a remote webinar option as well. So stay in touch with us, we'll stay in touch with you, and we will be your source for continuing education. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and say it's a pleasure speaking with you. Again, congratulations on just about finishing internship, and we will work with you on the licensure process, particularly with these states of Virginia and Maryland.